one quiet June night, this small town's illusion of safety was torn to shreds. In a single house, 8 people, 6 of them children, had their lives ended as they slept in their beds. This isn't fiction. This is the true story that left a scar on the heart of America and killed not just a family, but an entire town. ShadowNotes. You're watching ShadowNotes, and today we're investigating one of the most chilling and still unsolved cases in U.S. history, the events at Villisca. To understand the full horror of what happened, you first need to see Villisca as it was before that fateful night. Nestled among rolling hills and farmland, it was a thriving retail and agricultural hub with a population of 2,500. The town grew thanks to the railroad and was proud of its Victorian homes, 2 large churches, and even its own armory. Interestingly, the town's founder named it Villisca, believing it meant pretty place in the language of a local Native American tribe. However, historians today believe he may have confused it with another word, Villisca, which meant evil place. In this seemingly idyllic town, at 508 East 2nd Street, lived the Moore family. The head of the family, Josiah Moore, was one of the town's most prominent businessmen. He held the franchise for the booming John Deere Company, which sparked a degree of envy. Before that, he'd worked for 9 years for Frank Jones, an influential merchant and state politician, only to open his own shop directly across the street from his former boss. Their relationship was, to put it mildly, strained. Josiah and his wife, Sarah, were raising 4 children, 11-year-old Herman, 10-year-old Catherine, 7-year-old Boyd, and 5-year-old Paul. They were an ordinary, respected family, deeply woven into the fabric of the community. The evening of June 9th, 1912, was a special one. The Moore family attended the Evening Children's Day program at the local Presbyterian church. With them were 2 of their daughter Catherine's friends, 8-year-old Ina and 12-year-old Lena Stillinger. Around 6 p.m., Josiah called the Stillinger home and asked for permission for the girls to stay the night. No one could have guessed that this simple act of hospitality would seal their fate. The family arrived home sometime after 9:30 p.m. They went to bed. The Stillinger girls were put up together in a small bed in the downstairs sewing room. All 4 of the Moore children slept in a room upstairs, next to their parents' bedroom. Sometime after midnight, an unknown person entered the house, armed with an axe, believed to have been taken from the Moores' own coal shed. He began his terrible work. He ended Josiah's life first, then Sarah's. After that, he went into the adjacent room and dealt with the 4 more children. Then he went downstairs to the parlor, where he ended the lives of the sleeping Stillinger sisters. But he didn't stop there. In a chilling encore, he went back upstairs and delivered dozens more blows to the already lifeless bodies, to the point where their faces were unrecognizable. The force of the blows was so great that it left deep gouges in the walls and ceiling. Morning came on June 10th. The Moore's next-door neighbor, Mary Peckham, went out to hang her laundry around 5 a.m. By 7 a.m., she grew concerned. The house, usually filled with the sounds of children, was dead silent. She knocked. No answer. She tried to look in the windows, but all the curtains were drawn. The doors were locked. Gripped by anxiety, she called Josiah's brother, Rossmore. He soon arrived and used his key to open the door. At first, Ross saw nothing out of place. And then he pushed open the door to the downstairs bedroom. He saw a sheet covering 2 figures and horrific stains on the pillows. He could smell the coppery scent, the scent of death. Ross ran out onto the porch and yelled to Mary Peckham, "Call the marshal! Something terrible has happened here!" That phrase was the beginning of the end for the old Villisca. The news spread instantly. Within minutes, the home was flooded with a crowd. Up to 100 people trampled through the rooms while the remains of the 8 victims were still in place. The crime scene was hopelessly compromised. The town marshal, Hank Horton, even let some onlookers handle the weapon. Some reportedly took fragments of Josiah's skull as souvenirs. Forensic science in 1912 was in its infancy. Fingerprinting was not yet standard practice. It was chaos. When the initial shock subsided, investigators began to analyze what little they had. Robbery was ruled out as a motive. Josiah's wallet with cash was left untouched. But the details were bizarre. All the mirrors in the house were covered with cloth, a common practice during wakes and funerals at the time. A bowl of untouched food sat on the kitchen table. Upstairs, a kerosene lamp was found with its chimney removed, its wick turned down to give off only the faintest light. And in the barn, an imprint was found in the hay next to a knothole where the perpetrator presumably watched the family for some time. 2 spent cigarettes were found in the attic, suggesting he might have been hiding there, waiting for everyone to fall asleep. The bodies of the Stillinger girls had been moved after their passing. A piece of clothing had been removed from one of them, her body left in a demeaning pose, though no signs of sexualized violence were found. So who could have done such a thing? There were many suspects, but no one was ever convicted. Historians and researchers today are divided into 3 main camps. The first theory, it was a hired gun. Many in town pointed fingers at Frank Jones, Josiah Moore's former employer and rival. Rumors circulated that Moore had not only taken the lucrative John Deere franchise from Jones, but had also had an affair with his son-in-law. A detective named Wilkerson from the Burns Agency openly accused Jones of hiring a man named William Blackie Mansfield to eliminate Josiah. Mansfield was a deeply sinister figure. He was suspected of committing a series of similar axe incidents in Illinois, Kansas, and Colorado. The signature was strikingly similar. Blows with the blunt end of an axe, covered mirrors, a lamp with the chimney off. However, Mansfield had a rock-solid alibi. Payroll records confirmed he was in Illinois at the time of the Villisca events. He was released and even successfully sued the detective for damages. The second theory, a traveling preacher. The Reverend George Kelly was at that same Children's Day program on the evening of the tragedy and left town early the next morning. His behavior was highly suspicious. He wrote long letters to investigators, posed as a Scotland Yard agent to get inside the house after the incident, and even turned in a blood-stained shirt for cleaning. Kelly suffered from mental health issues, was diagnosed with schizophrenia, and was known as a peeping Tom. He was arrested 5 years later, but due to conflicting witness testimonies and a coerced confession, a trial resulted in a hung jury. And the third, most terrifying theory, a serial perpetrator. Some researchers, including federal officer M.W. McLaury, believed the Villisca incident was just one link in a chain of brutal events that swept across the Midwest from 1911 to 1912. Colorado Springs, Monmouth, Paola. In each of these towns, families had their lives ended in their sleep under similar circumstances. The assailant seemed to travel by rail, striking and then vanishing into the night. This theory points to a faceless, motiveless evil that could come from anywhere and disappear just as quickly. One suspect in this series was Henry Lee Moore, no relation to the victim's family, but he was convicted of another crime and never charged in the Villisca case. The aftermath of that night was catastrophic. The tragedy split the town apart. Residents divided into those who believed Frank Jones was guilty and those who defended him, leading to a schism between the town's two main churches. Villisca's economy, which had peaked in 1912, went into decline. The town's name became forever synonymous with unsolved mystery and horror. The house where it all happened passed through many owners and stood vacant for long periods, falling into disrepair. It wasn't until 1994 that historians Martha and Gavin Lynn purchased and painstakingly restored it to its condition on the night of the incident, complete with no electricity or plumbing. Today, the house is listed on the National Register of Historic Places, and ever since it was open to the public, visitors have reported unexplained phenomena. Feelings of dread, the sounds of footsteps and children's laughter. Some have even claimed to make contact with spirits. To me, the story of Villisca is more than just a ghost story. It's a tragedy about how a single act of evil can shatter a community's sense of security. A home is supposed to be a fortress, the safest place on earth, but on that night, for 8 people, it became their tomb. What do you think about this? Which theory seems most plausible to you? Was it a bitter rival, a disturbed preacher, or a faceless traveler on America's railroads? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to ShadowNotes for more investigations.